It's not possible. I didn't say it would be easy, Neo.
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is reconvening. Today's Monday, April 1st, 2024. It's 9:59 a.m. and we are at Iberville, Iberville Parish Jail. Good morning. My name is Cheryl Renazzi, serving as the chairman of today's parole panel. My colleagues on the panel seated to my left is Mr. Steve Prater, to my right, Mr. Chuck Tillis. Would the staff there at Iberville please introduce yourself for the record?
Good morning. This is Joe Dupont. I'm Coy Simpson's attorney, and Mr. Simpson is present, and Iberville Parish Warden is in the next room.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you said you're Mr. Dupont?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm gonna, if I can get to the right page, I'm gonna read the allegations against Mr. Simpson and ask him to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. We'll have some questions. And at the end, we'll ask him for his statement, if he has one, and then ask you to close it out. Is that okay with you? That process?
That's fine. That's fine.
So, Mr. Simpson, you're here for a revocation decision this morning. You ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Ms. Renata.
And I'm going to read the allegations, ask you to enter your plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll talk about it, okay?
Okay.
So you're accused of violating conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 4. You engaged in criminal activity as evidenced by your arrest June 9, 2021 by the Louisiana State Police for possession of a firearm by a felon, 2 counts, illegal possession of stolen firearms, 2 counts, and possession with the intent to distribute cocaine, possession of a firearm with a controlled dangerous substance, and improper lane change. On November 9, 2023, you pled guilty to possession of marijuana and received a sentence of a $100 fine and court paused in 5 days parish jail. All other charges were dismissed. So how do you plead to violating that instance of condition number 4?
Not good.
Not guilty.
Okay. Then we have another one, condition number 4, which states you also engaged in criminal activity as evidenced by your arrest March 13, 2023, for taking contraband to or from a penal institution in possession with intent to distribute methamphetamines by the Iberville Parish Sheriff's Department. These charges were not crossed on November 9, 2023. How do you plead to that violation?
Not good.
Not guilty.
We have condition number 5, which states you were in possession of firearms as evidenced by your arrest June 9, 2021, for possession of a firearm by a felon, 2 counts, illegal possession of stolen firearms, 2 counts, and possession of a firearm, the controlled dangerous substance. During the search of the vehicle that you were driving on that day, June 9, 2021, per the police report from the Louisiana State Police, the faceplate of the center console, which houses the transmission shift knob and cup holders, was removed. Underneath the faceplate in a neutral void of the vehicle center console were 2 semi-automatic pistols. Pistols were later determined to be 9mm Ruger SR 1911, a Smith & Wesson 40 caliber. An NCIC inquiry later revealed both firearms had reported stolen. How do you violate condition number 5?
Parental verification. I don't know what that.
Not guilty.
And then we have condition number 10, which says you have made no payments toward your supervision fees and currently $1,953 in arrears. How do you plead, sir?
Not guilty.
Okay. Well, let's address that first. So tell us, you say you're not guilty to being behind on your fees?
You are behind, but you were doing community service. Explain that to me.
Okay, I was behind Ms. Renata because I wasn't employed. I wasn't working in it because due to the COVID situation. And I was doing community service.
Okay. That explains it. Okay, well, let's go back up to the 2021 charges with the firearms. Tell us what happened.
Tell me about the ministers.
Oh,
Would you like Mr. Simpson to address it first or me?
If you like, Mr. DuPont.
Yeah, let me, maybe I'll go first. Just, I want to ask y'all, did y'all have the opportunity to read the report from Chad Bordelon?
I don't know that I have.
He was, he came and conducted a preliminary hearing here at the jail, collected evidence and issued a report. Y'all didn't get to
Yes.
see it?
We did. Yes, we have that.
All right. Well, if you notice, count 4 and 5 are both from the same incident. And on the second page, you can see where, Mr. Simpson was participating with a community service program through, Ms. Chapman, with the peer ministry group. And on the day of that incident, he had ridden in a van with other individuals that were participating in that community service that day. They rode in the van from New Orleans to Angola, and then from Angola they went to Baton Rouge. And while in Baton Rouge, Ms. Chapman, who was facilitating that program, asked Mr. Simpson if he would ride with Rondell Smith to Rain, Louisiana, to drop off some COVID supplies at this First Baptist Church. So had she not asked him to ride with Mr. Smith, who was driving his own vehicle, he'd have never ended up in that vehicle that day to begin with. Rondell Smith asked Mr. Simpson to drive because he said he was tired, just wanted someone else to drive. And that's when they got stopped, and that's how Mr. Simpson ended up in that vehicle. And all of the contraband, the guns, the drugs, all of that was hidden within the vehicle. None of it was in plain view. The only thing that would have been in plain view would have been a small amount of marijuana, which Mr. Simpson ultimately pled to possession of marijuana. The remaining charges, accompanying charges, were all dismissed. Based primarily on what I just presented to the three of y'all, that he had no knowledge and it was by chance that he ended up in that vehicle. Mr. Rondell Smith did plead guilty, and in his guilty plea, confirmed that Mr. Simpson had no knowledge of the contraband or the guns that was in the vehicle, and exonerated him on those charges. And that being said, Coy, do you have anything to add on that as far as how that transpired?
it was a vape pen, Ms. Renata. It wasn't marijuana itself. It was a vape pen that tested positive for marijuana, which I bought from the truck stop. They said it was CBD, but in the toxicology report, it said a CBD level was high enough for me to be charged with misdemeanor possession of marijuana.
Right. Plead guilty to that, right?
And I would add that I recommended he plead to the misdemeanor marijuana because I was in discussions with his parole officer at the time, who indicated that a misdemeanor plea likely would not result in a revocation. So I recommended he do that based on the totality of the circumstances with all these felony charges pending. And it was an easy way to be done. He had been in jail for quite some time on a hold by the time we entered the plea, and I think you can see the sentence of the court was 5 days parish jail, which, I mean, he had been in jail quite some time, and that covered him. And we felt that would, take care of his parole issue based on my discussions with his parole officer at the time.
Okay, can you address now the contraband?
Yeah, first I'll let Mr. Simpson go after me, but on the contraband, there were multiple people charged with that incident, which occurred here at the Iberville Parish Jail. Mr. Simpson was working as a trustee. He would go out with a group of other guys, and they would pick up trash on the side of the road and that types of stuff. And there was some contraband that got introduced into the jail. Multiple people got charged, but at the end of the day, the district attorney's office didn't feel that the charges against Mr. Simpson were warranted, based on a couple of the co-defendants exonerating Mr. Simpson. given written statements that he had no knowledge of the contraband, and those charges ultimately were dismissed in their entirety against Mr. Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, anything you want to say to that?
I was a part of a litter abatement crew, and our job was to go out around the parish and pick up trash. And on the morning of the incident, one of the other guys who was arrested on a charge with me, he asked me to grab some cigarettes in a lighter form. And I grabbed what I thought was some cigarettes in the lighter, and I gave it to him. And immediately, once the authorities, as well as the warden and Detective Moore came, I let them know what my role was in it, and I told them I didn't know nothing about it. And when they asked me, I told them everything I knew. And like Mr. Bourlon put in this summary, Detective Moore let them know that I fully cooperated with the investigation. I had no knowledge of that at all.
How many people's on that crew?
It was 4 of us.
4. So everybody got in trouble?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I would also note that there was another individual that wasn't part of that crew that was charged, and that was the female who deposited the narcotics, and she wrote a detailed statement stating that she didn't know Mr. Simpson, he had no knowledge of it, and it was coordinated between her and some other inmate. He just, I'm sure y'all hear this a lot, but he was in the wrong place at the wrong time on 2 occasions. The first one, if he wasn't asked by the ministry to drive this Smith guy, he's never in the vehicle. On this one, he was trusted enough at the jail to be a trustee and have the freedom to go out on the work crew. And there's been no other complaints. And I think there's been some positive statements made. I don't know if they were in the report by our sheriff and other members of our law enforcement that, you know, Mr. Simpson that was bad circumstance, but other than that, he's been a model inmate here. And of course, he's been here almost 3 years now on this hold. You know, hopefully y'all take all of this into consideration. But had he not been in the vehicle with Mr. Smith, had he not been with the guys that were coordinating this contraband issue, we wouldn't be here today.
Thank you. I didn't recognize your godmother, Miss Harris, and she wants to speak on your behalf. Miss Dorothy, would you like to say something now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead.
Greetings. Thank you all. I've been in Coy license. Coy was in elementary school, and his life has never been easy. His mother loved him dearly. She did her best she can with them. His grandparents practically raised him, but his mother, no disrespect to you, Coy, was a woman of the streets and was prostituting, and she died from that sickness because of that. She ended up dying with AIDS, and I'm sorry, Coy, no disrespect. And so his grandparents were older people that practically raised him and had him in a part of the church house and stuff like this here. But Coy was young, and his parents was dead, his mother and his father. His father, I don't know too much of him, wasn't basically in his life, but I know his mother. And they died before he was even sentenced to go to penitentiary at a young age. A child at 17 years old had to go to penitentiary to grow to be a man. He learned to be a man in penitentiary. I was in the courthouse the day that he was sentenced for his time to go to penitentiary with my now deceased son. So they're like brothers, and that's my godson. And he never had that proper guidance when he came home and stuff like that. He came home thinking he was coming home to a lot of love, and the world changed, the people changed, and he just didn't have no place to stay stably. His daughter, she had him with him, but because she had a firearm, the parole officer wouldn't let Coy stay with his daughter, and he had no job, no financial income, period. He wasn't put into no type of placement or into no type of program to really help him. The parole officer or the city in New Orleans, they didn't really give Coy the proper help he needs. Coy really need mental help as well because a young child, a young boy going into penitentiary and doing 20 something years as a boy. I mean, he hadn't even developed as a man when he went into penitentiary. And when he came home, I feel like he felt the world was going to be the same and a lot of love was going to be exhibited, and it wasn't. You know, people make promises to you and they didn't. I had cancer, so I was limited to what I can even do for him because I have to stay with my son and stuff like that because of my sickly situation. And I believe if Coy can get the proper help that he need, you know, he can come out here and be a productive citizen if you allow him to have one opportunity, because his whole life has been full of drama. Like I say, when he came home, his grandparents, everybody mainly was dead. Or he had a sibling, a brother, but they were raised in two different mental states because the brother was raised with his dad parents and Coy was raised with his grandmother. So the brother have a productive life, but Coy they have their mindsets are two mental different things. And Coy, he a good person.
Harris, can you wrap it up for us, please, ma'am? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. What I'm just saying, I pray that you all would hear me and listen and give him the opportunity to come out here in this world and be productive in life and give him an opportunity to really live a life as a man. And another thing I would like Denise to tell, his daughter is trying to get in and she can't get in. She's trying to register to get in. She can't get in.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your remarks. I'm sorry she's having trouble getting in. So, Mr. Simpson, did you hear your daughter was trying to join, but she's having trouble. She wants to be here and speak in your behalf, but we're going to move on. So look, you've been in jail almost 3 years. In June, it'll be 3 years. Mr. DuPont did a good job explaining the violations. I'm a little concerned about the marijuana, and I'm concerned about where will you go? If you're not revoked today, tell me what your plan would be. Where would you go?
Well, for one, I finally have a chance to get some employment through the sheriff. The sheriff, he introduced me to somebody at a plant called Formosa in Baton Rouge. They don't worry about criminal background, and I know how to paint. You know what I'm saying? And
well, so where would you live?
I contacted some people from the parole project. They're gonna hook me up with a place to stay as well as the first 72. They told me if either one I can go to until they find an apartment, affordable apartment for me, I could sleep there at the place. They got a little program called a couch. Until the bed come open in the back, it's 6 beds. If all 6 beds are full, you sleep.
The first 72?
First
the couch program?
Ma'am?
You know about the first 72 with the couch?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. The first 72 hours.
New Orleans?
Yes, ma'am.
New Orleans.
It's on Gravity Street. I know it's right by it's not far from the courthouse.
Right by the jail. Yeah, I know where it is. But so you want to go to New Orleans and you want to work for the plant?
I'd rather go to the parole project in Baton Rouge because it'd be closer to the job.
The plant Formosa that he has an opportunity to possibly go work at is here in this area.
That's what I thought. That's why the 72 is throwing me off a little bit.
No, I'm saying I have either option for a housing plan with either or. But I would rather the people in Baton Rouge at the parole project because it give me a chance to be closer to Formosa. And I already have the OSHA training and I don't need a twig.
Listen, so who did you talk to at the parole project?
I talked to Anthony.
Anthony?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else y'all want to say to us before we vote?
No, I would just like to point out that I believe Mr. Simpson had been on parole for about 3 years prior to this incident, which he's being held on, and he was trouble-free, had no arrest or anything like that. And clearly he got caught up in a bad circumstance traveling with this Rondell Smith fella, which resulted in why we're here today. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you give him another opportunity here. Mr. Simpson, before we started, asked me to throw this out there as well. If y'all aren't completely comfortable with lifting the hold altogether, He wanted to know if y'all might consider by maybe a 6-month work release sanction, if that made you more comfortable where he could, get his feet on the ground a little better before getting out. But I don't think you'll be disappointed with Mr. Smith with Mr. Simpson in the future.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Look, I'm ready to vote. I did have work release on my mind. I think that he needs a little more help to try to. I like his parole project plan, but usually when they're supportive, they'll usually be here or let us know. I don't have anything in the record that confirms that. I agree, Baton Rouge is probably better for you than New Orleans, Mr. Simpson. And I do note that in the record, you had been on supervision for a little while and you had no other violations. So I'd be willing, in lieu of, to give you. Yes, sure. Go ahead.
When do I get it? Do you know?
Yeah. And I didn't mention this. Go ahead and ask your question. Mr. Prater has a question before I vote.
I was a little bit concerned about the 2021 arrest. And you say you were taking COVID supplies. Is that what it was?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the police report says you told the trooper y'all were delivering Bibles.
It was Bibles. It was Bibles, food. It was non-perishable items that people from Louisiana, inmates from Louisiana State Penitentiary had donated.
Yes, but there were no Bibles there. But
it was for the healthy.
And that maybe I can help clarify a little.
Let me finish, please.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
According to the police report, there were no Bibles in there, and you said y'all were delivering Bibles. The trooper says it's an unusual time of night to be delivering Bibles, that you didn't know where the church was. You told him you were a minister, and then you told him it was a rental car, and it seems strange now. You told him it was your brother's car, and it turned out to be, when they said it wasn't your brother, you said a brother in Christ. I'm confused about this 2021 deal. It seems like even with your criminal record of armed robbery and other things, that now all of a sudden bad things keep happening to you, but they're not your responsibility. And then the non-perishable items that you're delivering turns out to be cocaine that's sealed inside green bean cans. But I find that hard to believe that you didn't quite know about any of these drugs, yet you had marijuana with you. So you're willing to go with the marijuana, but not the stolen guns or the green bean cans full of cocaine. Could you help me, sir, figure this out?
Mr. Simpson, explain to this gentleman how that day went as far as point A to point B to point C. You started in New Orleans on a bus with other individuals, right? All right, go through that whole chain of events.
From total community action, where I was serving my community service, TCA, we went from there on a van to LSP to the front gate. We loaded all the supplies up on a van. We went from the van to Leavenworth and Baton Rouge. I want to say it's somewhere on Sherwood. And from there, we bagged all of the bags up that had the boxes up that had to go to the churches where we had to deliver to. We went to one church in Lafayette and two in Rain. One I remember for sure in Rain was St. Joseph Catholic Church. I remember that one for sure.
But Coy, you were riding on the bus for the first few stops, right?
Yes, sir.
When were you asked to get in the vehicle and ride with Rondell Smith?
In Baton Rouge, when we got back to Living Word, when we was boxing all the supplies up, Miss Chapman and Mr. DeLone asked me to ride with him because it was mostly older people and they had a lot of women, and me and him was maybe like the two biggest, the two strongest to lift the boxes.
But you didn't start the day with Rondell Smith.
No, sir.
You rode on the bus. At some point, they asked you if you would continue on with him.
Yes, sir.
So had they not asked you to ride with him, you'd have never been in the vehicle.
Been in the vehicle.
And the vehicle was a rented vehicle. it turned out it was rented to his wife, I believe, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the contraband that gentleman was just asking you about, was all that hidden in different parts of the vehicle?
Yeah, they say they found it somewhere. They had to remove something from the truck, like the face. They had to unscrew it or something like that.
Yeah, the report stated that the guns you had to disassemble the vehicle to be able to see the guns. And I think these green bean cans may have been in the trunk, or they were concealed behind the wall of the trunk, if I remember correctly. But they wouldn't have been visible to anybody unless you knew they were there. Hopefully that helps clarify it to some extent. If there's any more questions, I think he'd be happy to address them.
Did you know this fellow that wife rented this car? Did you know him previously?
No, sir.
You never,
At the TCA meeting.
what were you on parole for?
A robbery that happened in 1995.
Yes, you had served how long?
23 years and 2 days.
What was your total sentence?
80 flat years, but I had it commuted to 40 when the Fourth Circuit found that it was excessive and illegal.
Okay. Did anybody get hurt in this armed robbery?
Not at all. It was more of a fight that turned into a chain snatching and
Okay. Okay.
See that? You have any questions? No. All right. Thanks for that clarification. Mr. Simpson, my vote today will be in lieu of revocation to send you to a 6-month work release program. And I want to do that because I need you to have a more firm, solid plan with the parole project. And hopefully we can, the work release will be able to secure that job with Formosa to get your feet on the ground with them.
thank you, Mr. Nelson.
I would also add special condition after you're released, fully released, and you're still on supervision, that you do have a substance abuse evaluation and you comply with anything that may be recommended in terms of treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Crater?
Okay, so just for clarification, he's gonna stay in jail
For 6 months in one role.
6 months to work release. And the sheriff also has got him a job when he gets out, correct? So the
Yes.
sheriff is in favor of this,
Right.
Yes, sir.
that's our understanding.
That's our understanding. 6 months will help him get his parole project, reentry and housing plan in place.
Okay, I'll concur with that, but I want you to, if you can see the screen, look at my eyes, because, I'm hard to convince about some things, and don't think that I'm convinced about everything I heard today. All right? Rest assured, I ain't that easy.
Yes,
Thank you. Now, good luck with your work release.
Thank you, Mr. Frank.
Mr. Tilley?
I agree with Mr. Renat. The training and get on a work release program.
All right.
Thank
That's the plan. And of course, Simpson, we don't want to see you again.
you. No, not at all, Mr. Nelson.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DuPont, thank you very much.